All right, friends, how are you doing? Man, what a week we had here. We did it. We were the believers in SoFi, and it paid off. It paid off dramatically here. And I think there is. I've said this. I've said it. I've said it. But this is going to pay off dramatically where SoFi is headed. What we just saw this week. This was such great evidence of continuation of what Q4 is going to be, what Q1, 2, 3, 4 could actually look like for 2026. In 2026, man, it's going to be really interesting to see how SoFi shifts into such an underdog the past years. And I mean, really, this year has been really a defining moment for SoFi, 100%. I mean, last year was tipsy-topsy. Still, we didn't get what we wanted. SoFi couldn't get even into the, what a lot of us thought, $900 million range. But this year, we're here. SoFi at this point is but, $50 million from $1 billion quarterly. And that more than likely, they're going to be able to nail that down here very soon. They have found the right ingredients for what they're doing here, and it's just continuing. I made a video last week where I talked about, and I'm not going to talk about this, but I just want to say it, that I believe that SoFi is going to be like a top 10 in the next 10 years, just such a vicious problem for a lot of other banks that are solid banks too, because of their software, what they're pushing into, who they're going after. And that's a really great thing too right there. It's like SoFi is an investment in investment. And why I say that is because SoFi has really been pushing into this younger generation. Now, obviously, we know not trying to get politicky here, but we know the younger generation, it's a little bit of a struggle right now, jobs, all this kind of stuff. But SoFi undoubtedly has pushed into this, younger generation. They've been doing this. This has been going on. But what that's going to do, that's going to pay off for SoFi down the road, where a lot of those college kids, young adults, what are they going to be doing here in the next year, 2 years, 5 years? They're going to be starting families. They're going to be needing more credit cards, bigger credit cards, loans, business loans, personal loans, car loans, house loans, loans for whatever. They're gonna want to buy stocks. They're going to buy crypto, have crypto accounts. What is that going to look like next year? Into the future. SoFi is hitting on all of these cylinders right now. So with that, those investments that SoFi has made for themselves as a company are going to come back even better for us as investors with SoFi, 100%, because, this is where you're going to start to get bigger quarterlies. You're going to start to see bigger loans, bigger applications with credit cards being used, and SoFi. The biggest thing we want for investors for SoFi is for them to have cash where they can, they have a lot of investors, they have a lot of customers, investors, yes, but customers where, they're using their software, they're making accounts with them. This is what continues to happen right now with SoFi, and I can only imagine that, years down the road here, this is going to be very interesting to see how this progresses with a lot of this younger generation that they've soaked up here, and they still are, which is really, really good. So, and we know this too because every time SoFi releases their quarterlies, that they pretty much tell you age range, what they're going after, and a lot of this too, this is what SoFi was built on. If you really think about it, SoFi started essentially as a loan program, really what they were, and then when the COVID years happened, they were just demolished, banking wise, because people weren't paying the loans. They were frozen for years. So in that time, SoFi survived that. Isn't that crazy? SoFi, nowhere near what it is now, just a handful of years ago when the world, stopped spinning here, survived that. So if they survived that with the little bitty money they had at that moment and, being down in the dumps, they're going to do very well into the future with whatever's coming here. So that should make you feel very good here. it's very obvious that this is just the right place to be right now for investors. This is just the right place. It's got all the right smells, all the right looks. This is a really good place to be right now for investors. So SoFi, I get, I saw people comment like, why is this thing not at 35 yet? Why is it not at 40? Why is it not at 50? Those are coming. We're going to get those. I don't think anyone here is going like, man, I wonder if, I'm sure that, I know there is, but I don't think anybody here should be going like, man, do you think this is ever going to be like a $50 stock? I think we're looking at some hefty numbers here in the future. And like I said, I made a video where I talked about SoFi, going up against Robinhood, going against PayPal. A lot of people like to put those three in a bubble here and spin them around together and trying to think who's gonna be the top dog in there. I definitely think SoFi and Robinhood are always going to be in this competitive zone where they are going to be, just kind of bumping into each other for the next, ever. But unless SoFi really something dramatic happens here in the next few years where they just can really take over. But I'm going to talk about Robinhood tomorrow. They've got quarterlies coming up next week, so I'm very excited about that. I think a lot of us are. But even talking about PayPal, and I don't want to say anything. I don't like to say anything negative. I don't like to say negative things about stocks because if somebody invests in that stock, I don't want to make them feel bad about that whatsoever. That's not what I'm here to do. I think PayPal is a great company. It's a great stock, and I think it's going to continue to do well into the future. But I look at PayPal, and I've said this, and I've said it publicly, and I really do believe this, and this is going to take years to prove, but it's a personal goal I have right now. I just don't think that PayPal is ever going to do a lot more in the short term, do more than what SoFi could do here in the short term. I think SoFi is going for the crown. SoFi is going for a huge bank status. I think it's going for just completely redirecting the banking system right now with its technology, with pushing into even this crypto. Look, what does crypto look like here? I don't know how many of you really are involved in crypto. I don't know. But I am very much one of these believers that crypto is just kind of here to stay, and I think it's going to become more inundated into our systems, in the banking systems, whether people want to learn about it, use it, or whatever it is. But SoFi is obviously pushing into that sector too, to theoretically use crypto here. So that's a huge thing where other banks aren't really talking about it. That's a huge problem. Like I said, I don't really have a lot to say at the moment. I'm going to talk more about SoFi here tomorrow, but I definitely think this is just the right place. It's proven itself so much right now with investors that SoFi undoubtedly is going to continue to do what it's doing here. This was only Q3. And one thing that I think in 2025 here we're going to see is that undoubtedly, we're going to see SoFi hit into $1 billion quarterly. Once that $1 billion quarterly is there, it's in front of Wall Street, it's in front of investors, from the blue collar investor to the retail investor, however you want to mix that up. I kind of think they're a little different to, like I said, Wall Street. This is going to continue to be a stock that climbs. I think right now, I've seen this comment, and I'll say this and I'll shut up, but I'll wrap up the video. But I get that people are saying like, why is SoFi not as aggressive as a stock? Why is the stock not climbing as aggressive? I think a lot of it has to do with popularity. There's this thing that I've got into friendly arguments about with even friends where, I am very much in this realm of like FOMO and hype can make a stock very expensive, very expensive. Now, and that goes into the perfect conversation of looking at Robinhood. I do think there's very much a reality where what we saw with Robinhood here this year is very much a road that SoFi could find itself in 2026. Very much so, very much. So, yeah, friends, I just be excited. Be excited. This is a very unique situation that a lot of people are paying attention to. but still, there's a lot more people that aren't here yet, and they're going to show up in the 30s. They're going to show up in the 40s. They're going to show up in the 50s and 60s. And guess what? You've already been here. You've already made your bed, and you're just sitting here and you're just snuggling away in it, and we're just happy as can be. Friends, thank you so much for being here, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.